Hey there, everybody. This is Dr. Denise Dennis, the side business strategist with Prepared Mind Coaching. And we are going to be talking tonight about how to make more time for your side business. I want to make sure that the chat room is enabled. So as people join in, they'll be able to talk to one another in the chat room. I see Tom here now. Welcome, Tom. I want to respect your time, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and folks will continue to join in as we move along. Hi, Rhonda. Again, the chat room is enabled, so feel free to jump in there and make any comments that you want to make in the chat room. I'm so glad that you made the choice to join me tonight to talk about how to make more time for your side business. What I'm going to do this evening is spend some time just sharing a few tips and techniques to help you maximize your time so you can maximize your productivity and profitability in your side business. As I said before, I'm Dr. Denise Dennis. I'm known as a side business strategist with Prepared Mind Coaching. And what I do is help entrepreneurs grow a business on the side while they continue to work their full-time job. As I tell my clients, and if you've been on my webinars before, you've heard me say that there's three things you need to be successful. You need a purpose. In other words, you need a vision. You need a clear plan of action. And you need a partner in your success. And I hope I can be that partner for you. I write about the process of developing a vision and a plan in my book that some of you may have seen called Make That Change, 8 Steps for Crafting Your Ideal Life. And that is available on Amazon.com if you're interested in that. What I'm going to talk about tonight is one of the challenges that is faced by many of my coaching clients. And I've talked about this before, this notion of feeling like there's not enough hours in the day. We know that we all have 168 hours in a week, but still, it just doesn't seem like it's enough time, particularly when you're trying to run a side business alongside your full-time job. What I want to do, some of you may have been with me last time. I'm just kind of clicking back and forth. Some of you may have been with me last time, and if so, you know this is my second webinar on the topic of managing time. If you missed the first one and you want to get the notes from that, you can go to time.8weekchange.com, and 8 is the number 8. Time.8weekchange.com, and you'll get a summary of the notes from the last one of these that we did. But I am going to take some time right now to just recap what we talked about last time. And hi, I see Venetia, D, and Ebony, thank you all for joining tonight. All right, so let me recap what we talked about last time. The first strategy from last time was that you need to decide how much time you have to devote to your side business. And if you were on the call last time, or if you registered at least a week ago, you received an email reminding you to track your time. So just let me know in the chat box if you actually did do that exercise of tracking your time for several days, because I just would like to see how that worked for you. Was it challenging? Did you learn anything from that experience? So if you didn't, that's fine. This is not, although I am also a professor, I am not grading you. So, but I do want you to try that out, of keeping track of how many hours during the day and during the week you're devoting to your full-time job, to commuting back and forth to your full-time job, how much time are you spending on the other mandatory parts of your life, so you can see where you can make that time for the side business. Also, so that was one strategy we talked about last time. We also talked about the importance of deciding how much time you want to devote to your side business. And this is where I talked about the importance of self-care, of keeping track of how much time you want to spend with your family, your significant others, so that your whole life is not just full-time job, side business, that's it, and you're not doing anything else, because you're going to burn out so quickly if you do that. So how much time do you want to devote to each one of those elements? I also mentioned the importance of setting SMART goals, where SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And hopefully you've started the process of setting some SMART goals for yourself. I told you to stop multitasking, which I know that's difficult. That's one of those things that in our culture, we just tend to do almost naturally, it seems like. But really, you'll be so much more productive if you pick one thing to work on for a period of time. I'm going to talk more about that particular one today. I also talked last time about maximizing technology, and I mentioned, for example, I love that I have all Mac-based products, so I can start working on an article on my desktop top computer, and then go someplace else, go to a coffee shop with my iPad, continue working on the same document. If I'm someplace else, I can work on it on my phone, but it's all one file, and it syncs seamlessly. Love that. And then I also talked about the importance of working with an accountability partner. Of course, as a coach, I'm going to say, hey, you should get a coach. But really, what you need is somebody who's going to be the one to say, you said you were going to do this, did you do it? That's really what an accountability partner does. So all of that is a recap of what we talked about last time. I'm glad to see a couple people did actually go through and track your time. So good. That's a really an important first step to kind of see how you're spending your time right now. So for today, again, this is an interactive webinar. So you have the chat feature to ask questions. Sometimes they're kind of scrolling kind of fast. So if I missed your question, my assistant Dee is in the chat room, and she can take down questions so that I'll either answer them today, or I'll follow them up in another webinar, or perhaps include your answer in my blog or my newsletter. But I haven't forgotten you if I don't happen to mention it today. All right, so, oh, and I just got to keep remembering things. If you're watching me on the replay and you want to interact, there's still a chat box there, so you can enter information there. It'll send it to me as an email, so we can still have a conversation. All right, so let's jump into the material for tonight. The first strategy I want to share tonight is the importance of delegating and outsourcing wherever possible. So some of you might say, well, how can I delegate? I'm my whole side business. I have no employees. There's several things that you can do. Some things you can do are related to the actual business. So I mentioned my assistant Dee, she's actually a virtual assistant. So she has her own business as a virtual assistant, and then I am her client, and I delegate some of my work to her. So she can handle a lot of the administrative things, which then frees up time for me. If that's something that works in your budget, I highly recommend that some of those standardized things you hand off to a virtual assistant, so that you can do the higher level work that needs to be done on your business, or you can be out networking and your assistant can be behind the scenes. You may also want to consider having an intern, but I do want you to make sure that you pay attention to the rules about interns. An intern is not the same thing as a volunteer, even though we tend to use those terms almost interchangeably, and a lot of interns get used as volunteers. In order for someone to actually be an intern, it actually has to be some sort of learning experience for them. Whether they are getting college credit for that internship, or whether you just in your documents are calling them an intern, you do need to be able to justify what the learning experience is for them. so that they're not just the volunteer that you're giving work to. And volunteers are another source as well. You just can't call your volunteer an intern. So those are some of the ways of delegating within your business. But if that doesn't work for you, then look for ways to just outsource some of your day-to-day activities. So, for example, grocery shopping. Who says you have to actually leave your house and go to the grocery store? There are many grocery chains that offer delivery service. You can go online, pick out what you want, and they will bring it to your door. And that will save you that extra step. I would say shop around, because different stores charge different amounts for that. But that will save you some time. It'll save you the chaos of being in the grocery store. A lot of those programs accept coupons, so you can still save some money there. So look at that as an option for outsourcing that particular service. If you have a dog, consider hiring somebody to walk your dog. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, what are you doing day to day that you could have somebody else do? That it would be beneficial to you to pay to have somebody else do. So you may want to pay somebody to walk your dog, or if you have a big yard and you just let the dogs out in the backyard, there are people who have a side business as professional pooper scoopers, and they will come clean your yard for you. So that actually might be a business idea if you might be considering that. You can use a laundry service. So rather than spending your time doing the laundry, you bundle it up, take it to the laundromat, and most places will charge by the pound, and they'll take care of doing the laundry for you. And that's a service. I have in the past used a laundry service, and at first I was like, what are they doing with my dirty clothes? I don't know if I like that idea of strangers touching my dirty clothes. But I very quickly got over it, because I was like, I don't care what they're doing with it, as long as it comes back clean and folded. So that's something, again, price it out, see if the cost of it is worth it, so that it's one less thing that you have to do and you can focus on your side business. Along those same lines, having somebody take care of the housekeeping is another task that you can outsource. So it's one less thing that you have to do. I'd love to hear from you in the chat box. What are some things that you have outsourced, or that you could potentially outsource now that you've started thinking about it? Have you tried some of the things that I mentioned? So is there anybody out there who orders their groceries, or has somebody do the housekeeping, or has a professional pooper scooper take care of the pets? I'd like to get your thoughts on that. So keep that in mind. I'm going to keep checking the chat box, but I'm going to keep moving on with my talking. The next strategy I wanted to share is the importance of automating as many tasks as possible. So, for example, recently I was in California visiting my family, and on the flight back, well, as I waited for the flight back, the flight kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and I was just stuck in the airport for hours. And with as frustrating as it was, I was happy that I did not have to stress about the fact that my blog was going to be updated automatically. So everything was already set up. My blog post uploaded to my blog automatically. My newsletter went out automatically. My social media interactions, my posts on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all went out automatically without me doing a thing. I could be stuck in an airport. I could be on an airplane circling the airport, and it wouldn't matter, because all that stuff was automated, and it was one less thing, or several less things, for me to think about. I really want you to think about what in your business you can automate. if you are doing sending out emails to a group, are you sending that email out individually to each person, or do you have a way of putting all the names together and sending it out in bulk? But for the consumer, it looks like you've sent them an individual email. You're going to want to use a system such as MailChimp, Aweber, Constant Contact are some of the lower end ones where you can gather email addresses, and then when you're ready to send an email out, it will send each person an individualized email. MailChimp is free, so I would definitely say start there. Aweber and Constant Contact are low entry paid services. And then sort of the mother of them all, the big one, is called Infusionsoft, which allows you to do a bunch of different things. But if you're just starting out, you don't, it costs a couple $100s a month for the Infusionsoft. So it's certainly not for everybody. You know, not everybody starts out ready to jump into that one. But start with the MailChimp. I see Ebony says that she uses MailChimp. So oh, and I'm just checking in on your comments from before. Bonnie's mentioning she has a volunteer who helps with her inventory. Lusharon has a cleaning service that cleans her house once a month. So I'm glad to see that you all are using those types of services. So yeah, so MailChimp is great because that's a free entry-level service. I use Aweber. It just, that happens to be what works well for me. And again, what I like about it is that I can enter emails, or as some of you may know, when you registered for the webinar, and this is part of the whole automation, you registered for the webinar on what's called a landing page. You put in your email and your name. It sent you automatically information about this webinar, but it also put your name and email into my Aweber system. So now when I'm ready for the next webinar, you're already in my system, so I can let you know about it without having to do a bunch of transferring and sitting there at the computer and doing a bunch of back and forth. Everything is automated. Another bit of automation, or when I talk about automation, what I mean is for this webinar, you registered, you immediately got an email confirming that you registered. Depending on how far back you signed up, you got an email a week in advance, you received an email 4 days in advance on Monday, you received an email this morning, and you received an email like an hour ahead letting you know that we're getting started. And then you'll get an email, just giving you a heads up, you'll get an email in about 3 days and another one in about 7 days. When I talk about automation, what I mean is I wrote all of those emails in advance, and the system automatically sends them out on the timeline that I said to send them out. That's what you need to be able to do to successfully run your side business, because I'm going to make the assumption you don't have time to say, oh, it's an hour before my webinar, let me send out an email to everybody reminding them to show up. You want to have all that stuff done as far in advance as possible. Other things that you can automate. As I mentioned, when I was stuck in the airport, my Facebook was still updated. And that's because I use a program called Hootsuite that some of you may be familiar with. And I'll put that in the chat for you, just so you can see how to spell it. What I like about Hootsuite is that I can set it up, and when I say I mean my virtual assistant Dee can set it up so that I post something to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, and my business Facebook page, as well as my personal, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the late afternoon or evening, so that I am constantly out there interacting with people. And I can always, as an individual, go back through and comment on the posts that went out. But at least people are hearing from me on a regular basis, and they're hearing something inspirational, or they're hearing something, I'm sharing an article or sharing something about some of my services, but I'm in the forefront without having to sit there and say, okay, it's 8 a.m. Let me send out an email on Facebook. A post on Facebook. Now let me go over to Twitter. Now let me go over to LinkedIn. Everything is automated. So what I want you to do is look at your own business. And for those of you who don't have a side business, there's still just aspects of your life. It might be easier if they were automated. What can you automate in your business right now? What would be easier for you? For those of you who have side businesses, what else are you automating besides the things that I've mentioned already that we could share with the group? So I talked about Hootsuite. I talked about, just going through my notes, just making sure I tell you everything I wanted to tell you. The other thing is that even now that I pointed out Dee, even when just so you know, again, she's a separate entity, she's a separate business, so she would like to get paid. Isn't that surprising? So another thing I like that is automated is that even my bill pay is automated. So she will never have to chase me for a check, which I'm sure she'll be happy to know, because it goes out automatically. Without, I don't even have to think, oh, did I pay her this week? Because that's all automated. And because I'm a little business, it's just me and my virtual assistant. I don't have a big, I don't need a payroll department. It's just sending that check out automatically. So it's that kind of thing. So maybe you have bills for your business that you want to automate. Maybe you have bills for your own life that you want to automate. So again, whatever you can do to make your life easier by not having to think about it, then the better. And then another automated tool, I just found all these different little things I wanted to share with you. Another thing that I really like is Amazon has a service called Subscribe and Save, and you may sometimes see that come up when you're purchasing things. So let's say I have nothing around here to use as a prop, but let's say that I want to order toothpaste. Amazon has, you can get anything on Amazon, but with Subscribe and Save, maybe that tube of toothpaste costs $5, but if I use the Subscribe and Save, I can tell them, send me a tube of toothpaste every month, and if I sign up to that service, then it will only cost me $4 a tube, and they just will automatically send it to me once a month. And you can decide how often you want them to send stuff. So again, anything that can be taken out of your hands and taken out of your head, I highly recommend as a way to automate. It doesn't have to be business related. You're just trying to get your life. You're trying to get your life, so you have some room to breathe, given everything that you need to do. Last time, one of the things I talked about was technology. And before that, let me just share. Ebony mentioned she's automated one of her coaching programs. She also has her sales funnel automated so that, like me, when people hit my site, if they give me their email address and name, they automatically start getting emails from me at intervals. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Ebony. And actually, that reminded me. If you are, some of you, for your side business, you have some sort of network marketing business, whether it's OrganoGold or Mary Kay or one of those types of structures. Make sure before you set up one of these email systems, make sure you find out what you're allowed to do according to your headquarters. So talk to people in your upline, because sometimes you're not allowed to keep names in a separate database. You have to go through their system. And sometimes there's parts of their system that you don't even know exist. So just see what's out there for your particular product line before you go setting up your own thing on the side. And if you'd like, I'd love to talk with you about just what aspects of it you might want to automate. All right, moving on to talking about more about technology. We talked about technology last month. Now I want to talk about I just want to share a couple apps that you might find useful. One is if you use MailChimp, so Ebony mentioned that she uses MailChimp for her email system. MailChimp has an app that you can use, so does Aweber, the one that I use, where you can just keep track of your statistics, and you can see, it'll let you know that the email that you scheduled actually went out. It will let you see how many people it went out to. More importantly, it would also let you see how many people opened the email. So that's on the app. The web-based client will tell you all that also, but it's kind of nice to have it in the palm of your hand on your phone. Other apps that are useful would be anything Google. All Google world has, Google has email, Google has calendars, voicemail. There's the Google Drive to serve as a cloud service to back all of your information up. So if you haven't taken advantage of all the different things that Google has to offer, please explore. Google has Hangouts. We're actually on a Google Hangout right now that's allowing us to do this live webinar, which if you were to watch it on the replay, you would be watching it on YouTube, which is owned by Google. So really, if you're using any of those products, see what Google has to offer, because there's just so much stuff out there that is there for free. Has anyone else used, I'm going to talk about some more apps, but while I'm talking about it, if there's an app that you have that you love, go ahead and share it in the chat, and then I can talk about it, share it with the group later. I also wanted to talk about an app that I have not used. I've started researching it because it seemed really interesting, so I thought I would share in case some of you have used it. It's called FreshBooks. And like I said, I'm still researching and reviewing it, but I wanted to share it since I was coming on the webinar tonight. And this app allows you to, it's an accounting app. It allows you to track your expenses. You can take a picture of a receipt to enter the receipt. You can send invoices through the app. You can accept payments on your website. It can generate reports. Now the app itself is free, but the FreshBooks is a subscription-based product that is about, I think I saw it's about $20 a month. So you might have something that you prefer that might not be in that that price point, but I wanted to at least share it with you as something that seems really interesting, and I'm still trying to see if it is right for me, but perhaps it works for you. Hi, Annette, I see that you're here. Glad that you're joining us. Dee mentioned Evernote. That was another one that was on my list to share with you. I do love Evernote because you can do so much with it. You can keep notes on the fly. So if you're in a meeting, take notes in Evernote. If you're surfing online, you can clip websites and it'll save them. It can, what else do you do with it? Dee or anybody else that's used Evernote? I just had a brain freeze, even though I use it frequently. What I like about it, though, is that once you have all these notes, you can search and you can sort your notes in Evernote. One of the things that I think I use it for the most is to keep track of the songs I want to sing at karaoke. So when I go to the club, it's like, oh, what I want to, I need to sing Proud Mary tonight. So I have it all in my list of the songs that I want to sing. It's on my phone. High quality use of an app right there. But it also has business uses as well. So Evernote is one that I love, that a lot of people love. Ed, you said you can actually collaborate via email or chat through, are you saying through Evernote? Dee says she uses it to clip recipes. That's great. That's another good use for it. I mean, so many great things you can use it for. The important thing about it, or the really nice thing, is that everything is all in one place. Ed also mentioned the web clipper for Evernote is thebomb.com. Yeah, that's a nice feature as well. I also, talking about other apps, I also use Dropbox. a lot to save files. Now, you could, or I could, save some of the things I'm putting in Dropbox. I probably could save in Evernote. I just happen to like Dropbox to save. Initially, I started using it just to save as a backup tool for all of my photos. So then I'm not storing them on my phone. But I also like Dropbox because it's because a lot of other people use it, and it's a great way to share files. What else? I also recommend Skype, which most of you are probably using anyway. Skype or FaceTime, which of course is only for the iPhone, but Skype. What you may not know is that Skype changed their policy because they're smart and they recognize that Google Hangouts were breathing down their neck. Skype changed their policy so that you can have multiple conversations without paying for it. For a while, you could only have multiple conversations with with their paid version, but now you can do it for free, so that's great. And I say that presuming people know what Skype is. Skype is a video conferencing service or video phone service so that you can actually see the person that you're talking to. Those of you who for anybody who needs to communicate with people and you're used to communicating with clients by phone, you may want to try Skype calls because you can be more expressive when people can see you, and you can also read the client or the prospect a little better if you could actually make eye contact, somewhat eye contact with them, and at least see their facial expression and their body language while they're talking to you. So that's something you really may want to consider, and that your clients and prospects may actually be open to the idea of actually being able to see who they're talking to. What else? For those of you that need to do process transactions, a lot of people use Square. I like the Square app as well. Of course, I don't have my little doodad handy because it's not like I was going to be on a live webinar or anything, but you have a little Square thing that connects to the phone, and then you can just run credit cards through there. Great, easy way to accept money. And again, for those of you who are doing any sort of network marketing, it's great to have the opportunity to take credit cards if you're allowed to take credit cards using a device like that, rather than the old-fashioned way of just writing down the number. You can write it right. You can run it right then. Again, referring back to the comments, Ebony says, I love doing client meetings via Skype. It keeps them from multitasking during our calls as well. Yes, very good point. Very good point, Ebony. Thanks. And two more apps I wanted to share. One is just generic, but just something I want you to think about. If you sometimes will go to an event and you're going to say, oh, everything is going to be 25% off today. Well, now when somebody wants to buy something, now you got to calculate 25% off. Not that that's all that difficult, but if you're in the middle of doing a bunch of other things, sometimes just doing simple math can be challenging. There are a bunch of apps that are strictly percentage calculators. So if it's a 25% off sale, you can, for each transaction, just push the 25%, minus 25% button, and it'll do the calculation for you. Again, yes, you could actually just punch it in on a regular calculator, but if you're trying to do things quickly, sometimes it's easier to just have, just the Burger King method of the picture of the hamburger. The easier, the better. And then the last app I wanted to share with you is called Around Me, which has been around for a while, but it's one that I wanted to mention to you, where if you need to meet with a client and you can't, and you're like me, work out of your home, you want to figure out where you're going to meet. Around Me will say, given your location, here's what's around you. Here are the restaurants around you. Here are the coffee shops around you. So you can say, okay, there's a Panera Bread 3 miles away, let's meet there. Bam, you got a place that you can go. Or they wrote you a big check and you want to deposit that check and you want to go find the closest bank, you can pull that up. Which just reminded me of another great app. If your bank has it, does your bank allow you to do mobile deposits? I love that feature as well, where you just take your phone, you take a picture of the back and the front of the check, and the check is deposited. You don't even have to go to the bank. That's a combination of great apps, as well as it's not really outsourcing, but it certainly saves you some time. Any other apps you can think of that are out there that you want to share? Let's see. All right. The next strategy that I wanted to share with you is that you should have some kind of system for handling all of the ideas in your head, papers on your desk, projects you're working on, and tasks that you're working on. So how do you just keep all of that stuff together? There's not one right way to do it, but the system that I really like is the Getting Things Done system by David Allen. And what I like about this is just the fact that if you have a bunch of things you're trying to keep track of in your head, your brain tries to process everything equally. So that pair of pants you can't wear because you haven't sewn the button on yet is taking up just as much space as that important quarterly earnings report that you need to finish. All that stuff is weighing on you, and it's all getting jumbled together. What I like about the Getting Things Done system is that he says, start with just doing a brain dump, getting all that stuff out of your head, and then maintain the process of when an idea pops into your head of something you need or want to do, write it down and just keep track of all those ideas on paper or in an online system, and then make sure you go back and do something about them. And it's a simple concept, but to me, it makes all the difference in the world. If I know that I've written down that idea that I had, then I can relax a little bit because it's stored someplace. And as long as I include in my process, in my weekly schedule, in my daily schedule, going back and looking at that long list and thinking what would be a good thing to work on right now, then I feel that I can relax that and know that that task is going to get done. This brings me back to one additional app, which is called Toodle-Do. Let me write that down because that's kind of a weird name. Toodle-Do. And what I like about Toodle-Do, it's designed specifically to work alongside this Getting Things Done system. So it's not put out by David Allen, but it follows those same concepts. There's one called Todoist, which is another to-do task list that follows that same model. But you have to have something to get the ideas out of your head and down on paper or in some sort of planner, because if you're trying to hold all this stuff in your head, the mental energy that it involves is just going to really weigh you down, and you're not going to be able to take the time to do the actual tasks that you need to do. And then the last strategy that I wanted to share with you is one that I actually think is kind of fun. I really enjoy this technique. It's called the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro. Oh, I keep going into professor mode. I want to spell everything out for you. Pomodoro technique. Putting it into chat for you. And this system, Pomodoro, is Italian for tomato. And the Pomodoro technique is based on the old kitchen timers. I think when we were little, I think they were egg timers where it looked like a little egg and you could turn it. But they also made ones that looked like a tomato and you could just set the amount of time. and it would just tick down. So the Pomodoro technique suggests that to keep us focused and yet not burnt out, what we need to do is work in bursts of time of 25 minutes. And so a Pomodoro in this system means a 25-minute block of time. You would set a timer. First, you would decide what task you're going to do. So let's say that you're going to work on a blog post. And you know that a blog post usually takes you, maybe a blog post takes you an hour and a half usually to write. Just throwing that out there. This system would say, okay, I'm going to work on this blog post. I'm going to set my tomato timer for 25 minutes, and I'm going to sit down on my computer, and I'm going to do nothing but work on that blog post for 25 minutes. And that means you commit to that 25 minutes. You turn the ringer off on the phone, you turn off the Facebook notifications, you tell your loved ones, do not knock on that door, I don't care what, and you sit there for 25 minutes and you get that work done. When the timer goes off, you stop working and you give yourself a 5 or 10 minute break to just get up, walk around, stretch your legs. Then you set the timer for another 25 minutes and you do nothing but for 25 minutes, and then you take another break. This system suggests that you do no more than 4 of these 25-minute segments, and then you take a long break, take about like a half-hour break to really take time to clear your head, do something different, walk around during that time before you get back to, maybe your project's done, but you definitely, no matter what, after every 4, take a long break and then jump back in. Now, because I like stuff to be as automated as possible, I mean, not as automated, but I like technology. So rather than have the old-fashioned egg timer, and you could just use the timer on the iPhone, but what I like is a website called tomato-timer.com. And I will, of course, put that over in the book, in the chat. Tomatotimer.com, which I'm not sure there's even I'm sure there's a picture of a tomato on the site somewhere. But in any case, just when I use it, I'm pointing to my computer screen. I have my screen open to full size, so it's just this giant timer right in the middle of the screen that's counting down the work. And then if I'm writing, I could look up and see how much time I have left, but it's right in front of me. And then it rings, and I go do something else, and then I reset it. Pretty much works the same way the timer on your phone would work, so you could use that as well. But again, just make sure you take short breaks in between and do something. Get up out of your seat and go do something. And then after every 4 of those, take a longer break. So that tip right there has really helped me stay focused. I would say that is, if you did nothing else, try that tip. Especially if you're the kind of person who tends to multitask, this is one of those ways to do that one thing that we talked about last time. Whatever that one thing is, you commit to doing just that one thing for 25 minutes. And again, although I always am talking usually about your side business, it could be anything. So maybe it's you need to organize your garage. You say, okay, I'm going to work on the garage for the next 25 minutes, and then I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then work on it again for 25 minutes. So, it doesn't have to be something related to your business, but it's just a good way to push you forward to get a task done. So, as we are kind of winding down here, I wanted to reiterate, as I mentioned at the beginning, that I really believe the key to success is to have a purpose, a plan, and a partner. And to maximize your effective and efficient use of time, that plan part is so important. It's so critical for you to have an action plan for your success. So I want to take a little bit of time now to just talk about one of the products that I offer that will help you with that action plan. One of the things that I offer is called a leadership assessment and action planning process. And let me just stick that in there for you somewhere. Hold on, get to that in a sec. And what this does, there we go. With the leadership assessment and action planning package, it's particularly geared toward you if you in any way have a leadership position. And it may be that because you run a small business, a side business, you are the leader as well as the janitor and everything in between. Or it could be in your full-time job, you have some sort of leadership role. What you do with this package is that I have you take a detailed leadership assessment. And this is not some little Rudy Poot assessment that is like, you know, something you'd get out of a magazine. This is an assessment that is research-based. It was developed by psychologists. You're not even allowed to give it to people unless you have at least a master's in psychology. So this is not, I mean, this is, you know, I don't play with stuff like that. So you take this assessment, and what it will give you a detailed report that compares your leadership skills to the leadership skills of successful leaders. And it generates a report like this, a very detailed report of your leadership skills, and it lets you know what your strengths are and lets you know about your areas for development. So that's just the starting point. Then what we would do is have a conversation by either phone or Skype, where we would then take that report and create a detailed action plan for you. We would figure out, what do you want to accomplish? What strengths do you want to grow? What development areas do you want to work on over the next 90 days? And we'd figure out, what actions do you need to take? What resources do you need in order to accomplish that? What's your timeline for accomplishing each one of those actions? Will be as detailed as possible. And then I'm going to come back to you in 90 days. We're going to talk again and have what I think is really the most important part. We'll have an accountability meeting. And in that accountability session, we're going to look at how well you did on everything that you said that you're going to work on over the past 90 days. Did you accomplish everything? What challenges did you face? What are your successes? And I'm sure there'll be many. This sort of bookending really is crucial and where the success really happens, because it's one thing for us to create the plan, but if you know that you're going to talk to me 90 days from now, you are much more likely to put into place all those actions that you said that you need to implement. So you get the leadership assessment, you get the action plan, and you get the accountability session, and all of that is for $247, and just clicking on that link will get you that package for you. Now, of course, you all should know by now that if you are on my webinar, I want to really reward you and applaud you for taking the time to spend this time with me and for committing to your goals. So I'll tell you right now that for the people that are on this webinar, whether live or watching the replay, I'm going to add something extra. So you're going to have that leadership assessment, you're going to have the action planning session, and then you're going to have that bookend of the accountability session 90 days later. What I'm going to do is right in the middle, at about the 45-day mark, I'm going to add in a progress session. So you'll have a midpoint session for us to talk about how things are going, for us to do some self-correcting if we need to get you back on track, so that you can finish strong for those last 45 days. And that's only for those of you that are on the webinar, again, either live or on the replay. And to take advantage of that, you just need to go ahead and order that package now, and then shoot me an email letting me know that you were on the webinar, and we'll make sure that you get that bonus session. So again, I just want to make sure that you're clear about what you get with that action planning session. So like I said, we're going to clarify your actions that you need to take, but those are going to come from those SMART goals, which we talked about in the first webinar. We're going to talk about what goals do you need to set that are SMART. That stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. We're going to make sure that you're setting goals, particularly that are measurable. So how do we know that you're making progress toward that goal? We're going to make sure that you're setting goals that are attainable. In other words, if you say 90 days from now, I'm going to have 50 new clients, and right now you don't have any clients, then we're just going to talk about, is that attainable? Is that a realistic goal? And I want you to set some stretch goals, but ones that you could actually attain. And if you could do that 50 clients, great, but let's make sure that you can. We also want to make sure that you set goals that are relevant, that are important for you, and that are time-bound, so we're going to make sure that there's time blocked out for that. And then, as I said, at the 45-day mark, we'll have a progress session, and 45 days later, we'll have our accountability session. So we've talked about, so I wanted to share that with you. And again, that package is $247. We spent time both last month and this month talking about time and making more time for your side business. I wanted to open it up for the last few minutes and see if you all had any questions about anything we talked about last month or this month. And depending on your questions, I may use your questions for future webinars to talk about on the blog, talk about in my newsletter if we don't have time to fit it in today. Questions from anybody? Oh, thanks, thanks, LaShawn. Yes, there is a picture of the tomato on the tomato timer website. Thank you for double checking that. What else can I share with you? I do want to make sure that you have time for the website. I feel like I was going to share one more thing with you, and it is just going right out of my head. What was it? What was it? Well, since I can't think of that, I'll throw another bonus at you. How about that instead? What I want to do, just as we're closing out, for those of you, again, on the webinar, if this leadership assessment and action plan sounds like something that would be useful to you with the bonus of the progress session, again, I want to encourage you to act on that today. And what I'm going to add in, so this would be a second bonus that I want to add in, is access to my 8-week Make That Change program. So I'm going to throw that in also. We talked about that last time. It includes a copy of my book, Make That Change, 8 Steps for Crafting Your Ideal Life. It includes weekly modules, weekly action steps, access to the private Facebook group. I'm going to add that in. That would normally be a $97 purchase, but I'm going to add that in. You'll get that for free with your purchase of the leadership assessment and action planning program for $247. So a lot out there for you to think about. I hope that this has been helpful. This combination of this month and last month, talking about ways to make some more time for your side business. We're going to meet again next month, and I'm going to branch out. We won't be talking about time next time. But if there are some really pressing issues about something you definitely need to know so that you can manage your side business more effectively, please share it with me via email. You can reach me at ddennis@preparedmindcoaching.com. You can reach me on Twitter at Dr. Denise Dennis, and that's Dr. Denise Dennis. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Denise Dennis. You can also find me on Facebook under the name of my business, which is Prepared Mind Coaching. All right, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I wish you much success. Have a great night, everybody. Good night.